Hi there, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing this Slimline Floral Garden Card featuring brand new stamps, dies, and sentiment strips from the Simon Says Stamp All the Feels release. This release is brand new March 25th, 2021. Everything I'm using here as far as the products except for this slimline die are brand new. So this slimline die is from Simon Says Stamp, and I did use that to die cut some arches cold press watercolor cardstock. We're going to take the Floral Garden stamp. It's this big, beautiful floral stamp, and stamp it on this panel. We're only going to get a portion of it since it's a pretty skinny little strip here for the Slimline card. And I'm stamping this with Jellyfish No Line Coloring ink. I did stamp it more than once. It's watercolor cardstock and it has a little texture to it. Plus I had never stamped this before and I wanted to make sure I had a good enough impression to see to do the no line coloring with Tombow dual brush pens. So the Tombow pens have the brush tip as well as a bullet tip. I did use the brush tip a lot for tracing the skinny little stems, but then I will switch to some bullet tip in some of the areas as well. We're using several different color combinations of green markers for the Greenery. I really wanted to have an assortment in this because the stems are so long and skinny, kind of, I hate to say prominent, but there is a lot of greenery here as well as a lot of color. And so I made a real effort to use several different color combinations. I ended up starting kind of along the right side of the panel and I'll work my way across to the left, kind of opposite of what you'd think. Mostly because I wanted to do the flower here that I'm getting ready to start, and I think that's kind of what prompted me to start here. I generally just kind of go wherever the mood strikes. As I get more of these images colored, I think it'll be a little easier to see this panel, but it's really fun. The coloring did take a bit of time. Definitely, I think maybe it took me an hour or so to color. And I really took my time, and there was an interruption in between, so sometimes it's really hard to gauge exactly how long something may have taken simply because of that. But I would say it probably total took me about an hour. I did add the butterflies after the fact. I looked at my panel and really felt like it needed something else. And so that was something I added later. So that probably took another, I want to say maybe 5 to 10 minutes to color in. I used the water pen with that. So you're going to notice that some of the flowers, some of the areas, I am going to use a water brush pen to help blend out. Some I didn't. It just really depended on the area and whether I thought the color would bleed too much or if I needed a little help blending. Water is such a great thing to introduce if you need a little bit more help blending out. So I love this flower, but I felt like the first color I used to deepen and darken the petals, it was too orangey for me. And then I used this kind of, I think it's a yellow gold color, and I almost was afraid it was going to be too brown, but I am going to go back in with my baby yellow marker and kind of blend it out just a little bit. But I didn't bring my water brush pen then into this, and I think it helps a ton. Once I stepped back from it, I absolutely love this. So I think it turned out really pretty. I do have a little piece of scrap paper here that I use pretty often to clean the tips of my markers. So I did use a little water brush pen for these petals, and so I waited until they were completely dry, and I'm going to go back in with a little hunter green and deepen and darken those up a bit, and I think it makes a world of difference. I really, really like how that looks. This next color combination is one that I ended up using on some cards that will be shared over on the Simon Says Stamp blog, I believe on Monday, using the April card kit. And I actually used the Port Red and Carnation colors for one of those cards I'm going to be sharing there. And I loved it so much that I thought I would use it again here. What I love is it's a really good mix of kind of a purplish red, maroon red. I don't know. It's kind of got all the things I like. It's kind of got that purple tone, red tone, pink tone to it. I really, really love the color combination. So I'm going to use those two colors. We're going to blend out the petals with our water brush pen. We're going to leave the center of the flower for now. We will come back later once everything has dried. And kind of a funny thing, I'm actually going to use the same colors that I used like on the yellow flower I just did for the flower center, and I love those colors for flower centers. I don't know what it is. The colors are, let's look, burnt sienna, I believe, is one of them. Just kind of a couple of kind of yellowish, orangish browns. So really good. Next up, I did these leaves here, which I love the shape of these leaves, but they look a little too limey to me. But that's totally fine. One of the things I love about the Tombow markers and working on watercolor cardstock is if you give things a chance to kind of dry, especially with water, but even when you're not. I didn't really use water for those leaves, but I'm just going to let them sit there for a minute, kind of let the markers absorb into the cardstock, dry a bit. What I love is you can come back and color on top, which is what I'm going to end up doing. Adding in a little bit of that hunter green and darkening and deepening up those leaves, which makes, again, a world of difference. The other thing is this flower, I really wanted to do some kind of pinky reds, and I used hot pink and pink here, and I thought I was going to love it, and I do not love it. I really struggled, and so I ended up blending it out, and we're going to let it sit for a minute. Again, this is another example of kind of letting it sit. The thing is there's 3 of these flowers that are on this panel, and I really wanted them to be the same. Kind of for consistency's sake, I colored any flowers that were the same kind of flower, the same colors. And that way it just kind of made, again, it's consistent throughout. You kind of get those little hints of pops of color throughout the panel as well. So I already had kind of committed to this. I decided to just go for it. I went ahead and colored the next one. I blended it out. We will come back and do the third one a little bit later. And I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to move on and do these kind of aqua-ish type of leaves here where I'm using green and Alice blue. Again, this is going to turn out to be a little too light, a little too aqua for my personal taste, but we're going to color it. We're going to kind of go back in with some hunter green, deepen and darken it up, and I end up absolutely loving these as well. So always just kind of maybe start on the lighter side, and you can always work your way up to a darker color combination that you might like a little bit more. I think I have found that adding in an extra deeper, darker color, in fact, a lot of times a color that you might not necessarily love or like would use a lot of, really helps a lot, especially a deep dark color, which I tend to shy away from, but I do think it makes a world of difference. So I did kind of go back to my pink flower, and I was trying to kind of blend in some of the persimmon color. I actually scribbled it on my glass work surface and picked it up with the water brush pen. I like the color a little bit better, but we've lost so much definition of the petals that we're still going to need to do a little bit of work there, but we can always come back to that in a minute. We're gonna work on our little purple flowers. I'm using dark plum and royal purple. Now, these flower petals I actually ended up really, really loving. I think they turned out super cute, and I like the little pops of purple on the card. Really trying to hit like all of the colors of the rainbow here without being it overtly, ooh, it's a rainbow card. I find myself doing that a lot when I'm using a lot of colors. It tends to be a lot of the colors of the rainbow or whatever. So I like to find ways to kind of hit all of those colors because it is very visually pleasing. There on the little limey green leaves, we're adding in that hunter green color. I think I even added in maybe some dark olive. And then the little lemon lime. And look at the difference just blending in that little bit of color makes. It makes those leaves so much prettier. And then we're going to work on our bright hot pink flowers that I did not love. So this is the persimmon marker, so it's definitely got more of a red tone. I'm going to go in and kind of draw in those lines for the flower petals that got washed out with the water and blend out with my carnation marker. And I'm loving this a lot more already. I think you can see the definition of the flower again. It just, that little added bit of red in here tones down the hot pink. And I ended up actually really loving these flowers. So it's just a good example again of maybe kind of persevering and keeping at it, keep working at it to make it what you want it to make. I always like to share my struggles with card making with you guys because we all have those cards that maybe give us a little bit of a challenge, or there might be things that happen that you want to fix without having to start from scratch. And with the kind of coloring that went into this panel, this is something that I definitely don't like to start over on if at all possible. I'm going to color in some more leaves. I've learned from the previous leaves that I definitely want to add in that hunter green because it makes a world of difference. We're going to add in some more little detail with our green and Alice blue. And again, I'm going to add in hunter green for all of these. Anything along the edge, I don't want to leave that out because it's kind of like a little snapshot of the entire image. I did opt to make like some little yellow buds. I kind of envisioned these as little yellow buds. I don't know. They kind of had a leaf look, but they look different than the rest of the leaves on this particular plant. And so I just kind of colored them in with some yellows. And the yellow gold is great. If it's a little too bright yellow, the yellow gold is fantastic for deepening and darkening that up, which I think matches this particular card panel so much better. And again, all of these little leaves along the side. There is going to be one little image along this side and the other side that I will do last. And I'll kind of show you that as we get there. It's going to use more like lavender colors or kind of periwinkle type of colors. I'm trying to be super aware as well as following the stem lines down as I color them because I am using so many different colors of green. That's why you'll notice I'm doing a lot of those individually. Then I'm using those colors to fill in the center of the flower. I talked about that a little bit ago, and I ended up loving those colors for the flower center. Didn't know if I would or not. It's kind of probably not the direction I normally would go, but I ended up absolutely loving it. For my third little hot pinkish red flower, I learned my lesson, so we're going to use all the same colors, but I am going to go straight in with the persimmon color this time. and we should be able to get much better results, not have to go over it as many times as I did some of the others. I do want to mention my panel is upside down now. There is a lot of that. When I work with water, I am usually trying to keep my hand out of the water as much as possible. And so I will kind of turn my panel so that anything that is wet is away from me and I'm not smearing my hand through it. And I'm working in different areas, allowing each part that I've just colored to completely dry. We're going to flip it around again so that purple flower can dry. And we're going to introduce a new color combination using kind of some navy blue and also like, I'm trying to think, maybe a light blue. What color is this? Sky blue, I believe, is what I used here. And then we're going to use some nice greens, a little of the gold, yellow gold colors. I love the introduction of a little bit of blue, bluish purples into this flower panel. And then of course some nice greens. We're getting close to being finished. It's a lot of little finishing work and it's a lot of repetition from here on out. Other than the little flowers that are going to be along the side, most everything else you're going to see from now on is repetition of something I've already colored. There's going to be another one of these little blue flowers. There's another one of the larger kind of magenta flower, another yellow flower along the side, and I think maybe another little purple flower. So we just want to fill in all of these little areas. And for some reason, every time I decide to voice over a video, my puppy thinks that that is a good time for him to sit in my lap. It's either a good time to sit in my lap and try to give me kisses, or to snore. I don't know what we're going to do with you. I think this image is just so beautiful, and I really love how big and bold it is. It's just the perfect springy type of stamp. There are so many good brand new products in this release. This is one of 2 videos I'm going to have for you 2 days in a row. So definitely stay tuned and come back. Let me know what you would like to see me use from this release as we move into the last week of March and into April, because I would love to know what products from the release you would like to see me use. I have a bunch of fun videos planned for you guys, as well as I'm close to 80,000 followers here on YouTube, and I promise to do a craft room tour when I hit that, which I think is probably going to be pretty soon. So I need to get that video all finished up and ready as well. Definitely just drop me a note. Let me know kind of what you're wanting to see. I have some videos that you guys have requested that I am working on. I need to just get them up, get them edited, get them voiced over. Really excited about all of the new content coming soon. Here is our other little magenta flower. Love that. Got our other little yellow flower here. And this time I didn't even use the orange. I went straight in for our yellow gold, which is so funny. I think it looks so ugly, and then you introduce a little bit of water and that yellow gold just really helps define the petals perfectly. I really love these colors for the flower center. And then this is that little purple flower right along the side. And then we're going to do kind of the little periwinkle type of flowers, which I'm kind of sad that this image didn't get on the panel. I really played around with placement of the stamp because I knew that we couldn't use everything for the slimline panel. And I really love the little flower that's along the side here that I'm getting ready to color. And it's along each side, but just not much of it made it in to the actual design, but that's okay. I think the little touch of color along the side here looks really nice. We are almost finished. There's just a few little finishing touches. This flower and then another one on the other side. I've again flipped my panel. I also have those two flower centers along this left side of the panel that I need to make sure and add in. Was just waiting for any water to dry completely. In fact, I think I forgot the little purple flower until I started working on stamping the background, and then I really noticed it. I did add in a little bit more detailing for my little pink flower with the persimmon color. Now I'm going to take the new friendship text background, and we're going to do an all over text background. This is always a kind of a scary step. If you've taken tons of time to color in an entire background, to go ahead and stamp over it can be kind of scary. I generally like to use a nice light ink color. I'm using some PinkFresh Studio Fresh Pear ink, which is a beautiful light green that I think is going to work really well with all the greenery in the design. Plus it's very, very light, which is what I want. So we're still going to have a little bit of this really pretty textish background. If you guys have been around, you guys know I love text backgrounds. But because this is a 6x6 background, it's not going to fit the slimline design. So what I did was I stamped the top part. Then I'm going to just move my panel up and mask off anything that I've already stamped. I just want to make sure it falls within the area that the stamp is in my MISTI. And then I just use this scrap piece of paper actually to cover up what I've already stamped. And I'm going to ink up the bottom half and stamp this again. I will tell you, there's a little funny story here. I accidentally used my jellyfish ink. I wondered why it was so light. I wondered why it wasn't very green. There was just like a little bit of green showing through from when I stamped it before. I put it back in my MISTI and re-stamped it in a little bit because I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't paying attention. I was on the phone, which I shouldn't be on the phone and filming a video, I guess. But I was using the ink blending tool with this. I thought it would be funny to leave it in just to show you guys real life and what happens. And I was like, why is this not green? I thought when I ink blended over this, it would definitely have more green to it. This is my green ink blending tool, so I'm sure that when I touched the jellyfish ink, it picked up a little bit, but I'm like, man, this looks kind of muddy. This is not the way I want it to look. And I was like, and here's where I realized it. I really am so embarrassed that I did that. So now, oh, this looks so much better. So we're just going to add in a little bit of green. And I like this a lot. I haven't taken my friendship text out of my MISTI, so I did put it back in my MISTI and kind of re-stamp the bottom portion of my panel, and that makes it look a lot better. We have our greeting now. There is a new XL greetings. This is XL greetings 2. We're using Sending Happy Thoughts from this 6x8 stamp set. If you guys love XL Greetings 1, I know I have several friends who love, love, love that stamp set. It's such a good one. And they're coordinating dies for that stamp set. So amazing. I went ahead and stamped that with black ink right over the background, right over that nice light text and ink blending. It still shows up really great. I used black ink, which I hardly ever do. You guys know I don't use it very often, but I'm using these black sentiment strips from Simon Says Stamp. These are brand new ones as well. And I thought it all coordinated really nice. So I've already trimmed these down off camera. We have Hello My Friend that's going to be adhered up at the top. I'm adhering these with foam adhesive, and then down along the bottom to kind of balance everything out, we're going to use Wishing You the Best Spring Ever. I really, really love how this looks. I think it balances everything beautifully, but I will tell you, it's about this point that I really felt like something is missing. I need some sort of embellishment. Wouldn't some cute butterflies be darling on this, just fluttering through this flower garden? And so as I was adhering these, I was trying to think, isn't there some butterflies in one of the brand new stamp sets? Didn't I see one? And so I kind of went back to my stack of new Simon Says Stamp All the Feels product. And yes, there are some butterflies that are perfectly sized. So I was really excited I could use a new stamp set for this. This is the Bouquet for Mom stamp set. So definitely a stamp set that would work for Mom, Mother's Day, but also springtime. And I like that you can really mix and match it. So these 3 butterflies, I'm using 3, I think there's 4 different butterflies in the stamp set. I'm using 3 of them. I like to do my embellishments in 3s. I stamp them actually on that piece of scrap watercolor cardstock that I used to clean the tip of my markers. I flipped it over to the back side and stamped these butterflies so we have 0 waste. And I am going to color in the bodies of the butterflies with Lamp Black Tombow dual brush marker. I did draw in the antennae with a fine tip black marker. And then for the butterflies themselves, we're going to do kind of a yellowy orange butterfly, a bluish butterfly, and a purple butterfly. 2 of the butterflies are going to be in the upper part of the card. One kind of floating or hovering above the yellow flower, but close to the sentiment. And that's kind of the profile one of the profile butterflies. Then the full image butterfly is going to be down just a little bit, hovering above the flowers. And then the final butterfly is going to actually be down a little bit lower in the flower garden, hovering above one of the flowers there, and we're going to stamp a little butterfly trail coming from that. And that little trio of butterflies, I think, really ties this entire card together. I loved the panel. I thought it looked really good. I thought it was looking really balanced, but I just wanted something else to add to it. And coloring these butterflies was very quick and easy and really works beautifully with this floral garden. So we've got our little yellowish, orange, blue, and now we're going to do some purples. These colors really didn't blend, the blue either for that matter. I kind of picked colors that didn't blend out all that great, kind of on purpose, because I liked how the darker color kind of traced the shape and then we blended out and you just get that little hint of it, and it ends up working really, really well. While my butterflies are drying, I did go ahead and lay the dies out on my card so you can kind of see the placement that I'm thinking. And then I inked up the butterfly trail and stamped that right there on my card with VersaFine ONYX black ink, which is the same ink I used for the Sending Happy Thoughts sentiment. I've got my slimline card base here from Simon Says Stamp. I love that they have card bases. In fact, probably 99.9% of the time I am using a Simon Says Stamp card base, whether it's A2, whether it's mini slimline, or slimline like I'm using today. I think my butterflies are dry, so we're going to go ahead and take our dies, take a little bit of Post-it tape, and run these through our die cutting machine. And then we can put our card all together with a few finishing touches. And then we're going to add a coordinating stamped envelope. I've really been into the envelopes lately. I don't take a ton of time with them, but I do like to add some sort of coordinating detail to it. So I'm going to show you really quick how I do that. So originally I started with just one of the butterflies and I glued it directly to the card, and I didn't love it. So real quick, before that liquid glue dries, I'm going to use my tweezers, pick it up. I'm just going to wipe the glue off the back of that. And we're going to pop this up with some foam adhesive, which I think is going to work much better. It's going to help those butterflies stand out from the background. And these glue, or these foam adhesive squares, were not wanting to stick because of the glue, but I finally got them. And that to me looks so much better. So we're just going to adhere all of them with foam adhesive squares. I'm just loving how it looks with these little butterflies now. We're going to adhere then our panel to our slimline card base. The slimline card base does measure 3.5 by 8.5 inches. This die cut panel is slightly smaller, so it's going to have a nice white border all the way around. And I decided to add a couple of these Trinity stamps, a little hint of mint hearts. We've got a little clear one and a little frosted one. Just two of them kind of underneath the stamped sentiment. And now it's time to stamp a quick coordinating envelope. Simon Says Stamp has beautiful, colorful envelopes in so many colors, and they even have branched out to slimline and mini slimline envelopes in color. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of piecing together our floral garden stamped image so that there's this floral border with a tone-on-tone look along the bottom edge of the envelope. I like tone-on-tone. Keep in mind this is dye ink. This is actually Lawn Fawn Artichoke ink that I'm using on my envelope here. It's so dark right now, but it fades out as the ink dries and is absorbed into the paper. So it's going to be much lighter in real life, and it's perfect. You're still going to be able to write over it and see the recipient's name very easily, but it coordinates perfectly and it just gives such a pretty little look to the finished set. So you can see that I had to kind of finagle it, move it around to get it to work, but I absolutely love how it ends up. And here is a look at the finished design. Fun little finished set. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Floral Garden Slimline card featuring brand new stamps, dies, and sentiment strips from the Simon Says Stamp All the Feels release. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Simon Says Stamp products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.